The plea under the alien moon hung low in the sky, big and silver, lighting the empty streets with a strange glow. Ethan Cole had been walking for hours, his boots echoing on the stone road. The market around him was quiet now. Stalls were closed. The smell of alien spices still hung in the air, but the place felt dead. He noticed something strange. People were avoiding one corner of the market. They crossed the street, keeping their eyes down, whispering to each other. Ethan slowed his pace. His instincts told him something was wrong. Then he saw her. A young alien woman stepped out from the shadows. Her skin was pale like moonlight, her hair long and silver, and her eyes were bright, almost glowing. She looked weak, like she had been running for days. Her clothes were torn. When she saw Ethan, she stumbled forward. Her knees hit the ground hard, but she didn't care. She lifted her face to him, her voice shaking. "Human, please, if you don't take me, I will die before the sun rises." Ethan froze. He glanced around. People were watching from a distance, whispering, but none came closer. The girl's voice was desperate, almost broken. "What are you talking about?" he asked, keeping his distance. She swallowed hard. "Tonight is my choosing night. If I do not find a mate before sunrise, my body will shut down. My heart will stop. It is the law of my blood." Ethan blinked. This had to be a trick. "You expect me to believe that?" "It doesn't matter if you believe," she whispered. "It is the truth, and you are the only one who can save me." The crowd's whispers grew louder. Ethan caught bits of their words: life bond, dangerous, human mate. He noticed movement on the far side of the market. Two tall alien guards were pushing through the crowd, their black armor glinting under the moonlight. Their eyes were locked on the girl. "Who are they?" Ethan asked quickly. Her voice trembled. "Hunters. If they take me, they will not let me live. Please. I don't have time." Ethan's instincts screamed at him to walk away. This wasn't his problem. But something in her eyes, fear, but also a strange kind of hope, made him hesitate. "Fine," he said quietly. "Get up." She tried, but her legs gave out. Ethan cursed under his breath and pulled her up, slinging her arm over his shoulder. She was light, but he could feel the heat coming off her skin, feverish heat. The guards spotted them. One of them shouted in an alien language. The crowd scattered. "Move," Ethan said, and they ran. They slipped through narrow alleys, the sound of armored boots chasing them. The girl gasped for air, each step looking harder than the last. "What's your name?" Ethan asked as they turned a corner. "Lyara," she said weakly. "And yours?" "Ethan, now keep your head down." They darted into a dark tunnel beneath the market. Water dripped from the ceiling. The air smelled of rust and damp stone. Ethan pressed them against the wall as the guards ran past the tunnel entrance. Lyara leaned heavily against him, her breathing rough. "I can't last much longer. The fever is already here." "What fever?" Ethan demanded. "The death fever," she whispered. "When the bond is not made in time, it begins. Soon I will not be able to walk." Ethan stared at her. "You're telling me the truth, aren't you?" Her glowing eyes met his. "I wouldn't waste my last breath on a lie." They stayed in the shadows until the sound of the guards faded. Ethan knew this was trouble, big trouble. But he also knew he couldn't just leave her. "Where can we go?" he asked. "There is a safe place," Lyara said softly. "But it is far, and I don't think I can reach it alone." Ethan sighed. He could already feel the weight of this choice pressing on him. He had been on this planet for only a week. He came here for work, not to get involved in alien politics or alien death rituals, but here he was, holding a stranger's life in his hands. He tightened his grip around her shoulders. "All right, lead the way." Lyra's lips curled in two. The faintest smile. "Thank you, Ethan Cole." As they moved deeper into the dark tunnels, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into something far bigger than he understood. Above them, the alien moon shone brighter, almost as if it was watching. And somewhere in the shadows, unseen eyes were following them. The law of the dying bond, the tunnels beneath the alien market, twisted like a maze. The dim light from Ethan's wrist lamp flickered over walls covered in strange markings. The sound of their footsteps echoed, and every drop of water hitting the stone seemed too loud. Lyra's breathing was shallow. Her weight leaned heavier on him with every step. "How far?" Ethan asked. "Not far." "If we can make it," she whispered. Her voice was thin, almost fading. Ethan stopped for a moment, forcing her to lean against the wall. "We need to rest." Lyara shook her head. Quickly. "No, the fever is moving faster now. We can't stop for long." Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, like two pale lanterns. Ethan could see pain etched in her face. He had questions too many, but one rose above all. "Tell me what this is really about. No games, no riddles. You said you'll die if you don't find a mate." "Why?" She hesitated. Her hands trembled. Finally, she spoke, her voice steady but soft. "My people are called the Elvari. We are born with a life thread. It is like a second heart. On the night of maturity, the life thread must bond with another's. If it doesn't, the thread burns away and the body dies." Ethan frowned. "And that's just how it works." No cure, she said. "The bond is not just emotional, it is physical. It keeps the thread alive. Without it, I will not see the next sunrise." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "Why me? You could have picked someone else." Her gaze locked on his. "Because the bond is for life. And I will not give my life to someone who would use it for power or cruelty." Ethan was silent. She didn't say it, but he understood. She had been running from the wrong kind of men all night. "What happens if I agree?" he asked slowly. Lyra's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "Then you become part of me, and I become part of you. The bond will protect me, and it will protect you too, but it will also mark you. Anyone who wants to harm me will have to destroy you first." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "It sounds like more trouble than help." "It is," she admitted, "but it is also the only way I live." A sound from behind made Ethan tense. Distant echoes, metal boots on stone. The hunters were still searching. "Let's keep moving," he said. They hurried deeper into the tunnels until the passage opened into an underground chamber. Faint blue light came from crystal-like rocks embedded in the walls. In the center, water trickled into a small pool. Lyara knelt beside it, scooping water into her hands. Ethan crouched next to her, keeping his ears sharp for any sign of pursuit. "When I was a child," she said suddenly, "I was told humans could not bond with us, that your threads are different. But in the old stories, there were times when a human saved an Elvari by sharing their life force." Ethan tilted his head. "Old stories." Her lips curved in a small, sad smile. "Legends. They said it was rare, but not impossible. I hoped they were true." Ethan studied her. She was fragile in this light pale skin glowing faintly, silver hair tangled from the night's run. But there was strength in her eyes, even now. "Why are those hunters after you?" he asked. She hesitated again. "It's because I am not just any Elvari. My family was once the ruling line. I am the last of my blood. If I bond with anyone, it will give them a claim to the throne." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "So it's not just about survival. It's about politics." "Yes," she admitted. "And that is why they want me dead before sunrise. A dead royal cannot unite the people. Ethan leaned back, exhaling. Great, so helping you means stepping into a political war. You can walk away, she said quietly. I will not stop you, but then my death will be on your hands. He met her eyes. That's not fair. Life is not fair, Ethan Cole. She replied softly. A faint noise made them both turn, water rippling, footsteps approaching. Ethan's hand went to the small blaster on his belt. Two shadowy figures stepped into the chamber. Blocking the exit, hunters. Ethan stood, putting himself between Lyara and them. You picked the wrong night to follow me, he growled. One of the hunters spoke in a deep voice, his alien tongue thick with contempt. Step aside, human. This is not your fight. Ethan didn't move. It is now. The hunter's eyes narrowed. Then you will share her fate. Before they could move, Lyara touched Ethan's arm. We can't fight them here. Follow me. She pulled him toward a narrow crack in the wall, barely visible behind the crystal light. They squeezed through, the rock scraping against Ethan's shoulders. Behind them, the hunters' voices grew louder as they gave chase. The crack opened into a hidden passage. Cold air rushed past them, carrying the scent of the surface. Lyara stumbled, her strength fading fast. Ethan, we are running out of time. He glanced at her, at the pale glow of her eyes now flickering like a dying candle. For the first time, he felt a knot of fear in his stomach. This wasn't just a story. She really was dying. And he was the only one standing between her and the sunrise. Hunted through the city, the crack in the wall led them out into the night air. Ethan and Lyara emerged into a narrow alley, lit only by faint red lamps hanging above. The air smelled of burning metal and strange alien flowers. Somewhere in the distance, the city hummed with life, but here it was silent. Too silent. Lyara leaned against the wall, catching her breath. Her skin was warmer now, almost burning to the touch. Ethan knew the fever was climbing. We need to move, he said. She nodded weakly, and they started down the alley. But as they stepped into the open street, Ethan spotted them, two hunters. The same black-armored figures from before, moving like shadows between the buildings. Their helmets gleamed under the faint streetlights. They found us, Ethan muttered. Lyra's eyes darted around, searching for a way out. The upper levels, she whispered. If we can reach the bridges, we can lose them in the crowd. Ethan glanced at her thin frame. Can you climb? I can try. The hunters were closing in. Without another word, Ethan grabbed her hand and pulled her toward a fire escape-like ladder made of alien alloy. They climbed quickly, the metal rattling under their weight. Halfway up, a sharp sound echoed, a weapon charging. Ethan glanced down just as a blast of searing blue light tore into the ladder beneath them, melting the metal. They barely reached the top before it collapsed. On the rooftop, the city stretched out like a maze of glowing bridges, neon signs, and drifting hovercrafts. The wind was colder up here, carrying the smell of the ocean beyond. This way. Lyara pointed to a narrow bridge connecting two towers. They ran across, their footsteps ringing on the metal floor. Below, far down, the streets looked like veins of light. Ethan kept glancing over his shoulder. Sure enough, the hunters had reached the roof and were chasing them, their boots pounding against the steel. Halfway across the bridge, Ethan spotted something strange. A third figure stepped out from the shadows at the far end, blocking their path. This one wasn't armored like the hunters. Instead, he wore dark robes, and his eyes glowed a pale green. Lyara froze. Shadow Priest, she breathed. The man's voice was deep and cold. The last Starborn runs with a human. How amusing. Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. We're going through. The priest tilted his head. You could, human. If you gave her to us, not happening, Ethan said. The priest smiled, but it was not friendly. Do you even know what she is? What her bloodline means? She is worth more than your life, worth more than your entire species. Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he pulled Lyara toward the side railing. Hold on. Before she could ask why, he swung his leg over the edge and jumped. They fell. Wind roared past them, Lyara clutching him tightly. For a second, Ethan thought they would smash into the street below, but they landed hard on the soft, curved roof of a passing hovercraft. The impact knocked the air out of him, but they were alive. The pilot inside shouted in shock. But Ethan didn't give him a chance to react. He pulled Lyara toward the edge and leaped again, this time onto a lower platform crowded with street vendors. People shouted as they crashed through a stall of glowing fruit. The smell of sweet juice filled the air. Ethan grabbed Lyara and kept running, weaving through the crowd. Behind them, the hunters jumped down from above, shoving people aside. The crowd scattered in panic. Ethan led Lyara into another alley, but she stumbled, falling to her knees. Her breathing was shallow, her hands trembling. "Ethan," she gasped. "It's getting worse. I can feel my heart slowing." Panic surged in him, but he kept his voice steady. "You're not dying here. Not tonight." He looked around, spotting a flickering sign above a door in an old repair shop. He pushed the door open, and they slipped inside. The shop was dark, filled with the smell of oil and rust. Machines sat covered in dust. Ethan pulled her behind a large workbench, crouching low. Outside, the sound of boots and alien voices grew. Louder, Lyara's voice was barely a whisper. "Why are you doing this? You could have left me." Ethan looked at her, at the pale glow in her eyes fading with every breath. "Because I've seen enough people die in my life. I'm not adding you to the list." Her lips curved faintly, even in her pain. "Then you have to decide soon. Bond with me, or I won't last until sunrise." Before he could respond, the door burst open. The hunter stepped inside, weapons drawn. Ethan's heart pounded. He counted the seconds, waiting for the right moment. The hunter split up, moving. Between the rows of machines, one passed close enough that Ethan could hear the faint hiss of his breathing inside the helmet. Ethan grabbed a heavy wrench from the bench and swung it hard, smashing into the side of the hunter's helmet. The alien fell, his weapon clattering to the ground. Ethan scooped up the weapon and aimed it at the second hunter. "Back off." The hunter hesitated, then stepped back slowly. But before Ethan could force them out, the Shadow Priest's voice came from the doorway. "You cannot run forever, human. Every step you take only tightens the net around you." Ethan didn't reply. He just pulled Lyara to her feet and fired a shot at the floor, releasing a burst of smoke and sparks. In the chaos, they slipped out through a side door into the night. The chase wasn't over. But Ethan knew one thing: whatever this life bond was, they were running out of time to decide. The hidden truths the night air was sharp against Ethan's skin as he and Lyara slipped through the narrow back streets of the alien city. The sound of boots and shouted orders faded behind them, but Ethan knew it wouldn't last. These hunters were relentless. Lyara stumbled again, forcing him to stop. Her body was trembling, her skin hot as fire. "You need to rest," Ethan said. She shook her head weakly. "If we stop, they will find us. And if we wait too long, the fever will finish me." Ethan cursed under his breath. "Then we find somewhere safe, and you tell me everything. No more half-truths." They spotted a half-collapsed tower ahead, its top floors missing and its walls blackened from old fires. The place looked abandoned. Ethan helped her through a broken doorway, stepping over piles of rubble until they found a corner shielded. From the street, Ethan lowered her to the floor and crouched in front of her. "All right, Lyara, talk. Who are you really? And why is everyone after you?" For a moment, she didn't answer. I stared at the floor, her silver hair falling over. Her face, when she finally spoke, her voice was quiet but steady. My name is Lyara Velith, daughter of Queen Selith of the Elvari, last of the Starborn line. Ethan's jaw tightened. Starborn. Bay, the hunters called you that. She nodded. It's what we are called, those of royal blood who carry the celestial mark. The mark allows us to unite all Elvari tribes under one ruler. But my family was betrayed. The throne was taken by force. My mother, she was executed when I was a child. Ethan frowned. And you've been running ever since. Yes, hidden. Moved from place to place. But when the time of my life bond came, I could no longer hide. If I die without the bond, the Starborn line ends forever. That is why the hunters were waiting. They want me gone before sunrise. Ethan leaned back, processing her words. So, bonding with you. It's not just saving your life. It's making me. What? A king. Her lips twitched in a sad smile. If you bond with me, you would have a claim to the throne. Yes. And every enemy I have would become your enemy too. Let out a slow breath. No wonder they're chasing us like this. She met his gaze, her glowing eyes dimming with the fever. I didn't tell you everything before because I didn't want you to think I was using you for politics. But now, we have little time left. You need to know the truth before you decide. Ethan studied her. There was no arrogance in her tone, no sense of entitlement, just weariness and fear. A faint noise outside made him tense. He moved to the broken doorway and peered out. The street looked empty, but a shadow moved on the rooftop across from them. They're close, he muttered. Lyra's voice was weaker now. Ethan, if I fall unconscious, it will be harder to bring me back. The fever, it's eating at my life's thread. Ethan turned back to her. Tell me about this bond. What does it actually do? It links our life threads, she said. It's done through a vow, spoken in the old tongue and sealed with touch. Once it's complete, my thread will take energy from yours and yours from mine. If one dies, the other will soon follow. Ethan stared at her. So if I do this, my life is tied to yours. No way out. No way out, she said softly. He rubbed his face. That's insane. Her gaze didn't waver. It's life. And I am asking you to share it. Before Ethan could answer, the sound of boots on gravel echoed outside. The hunters were moving into the tower. Lyra's eyes widened. They found us. Ethan quickly pulled her to her feet, slinging her arm over his shoulder. They moved. Deeper into the building, climbing a crumbling staircase. The hunters' voices grew louder. One of them barked orders, their footsteps pounding up the stairs after them. They reached the top floor, a wide open space with no roof, only the alien moon hanging above. The cold wind whipped through the broken walls. Ethan scanned the area. Nowhere left to run. The hunters stepped into view, weapons raised. The shadow priest appeared behind them, his green eyes glowing in the darkness. It ends here, human, the priest said. Hand over the girl, and your death will be quick. Ethan positioned himself between Lyara and them. Not happening. The priest's voice was calm, almost amused. You think you're protecting her? But you are protecting the key to power your kind cannot imagine. She will destroy you. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. Ethan, please. He looked at her, then at the hunters closing in. He could feel her shaking, hear the ragged sound of her breathing. Sunrise was hours away, but she might not last another 10 minutes. The decision was no longer about politics or thrones, it was about whether he could let her die here. In the cold, under a moon that seemed to be watching them both, Ethan's grip tightened on the weapon in his hand. If you want her, he told the hunters, you're going to have to go through me. The priest's smile faded. The hunters moved forward. And in that tense moment, Ethan realized one way or another his life was about to change forever. The choice under fire, the wind tore through the roofless tower, whipping Lyora's hair into her pale face. Ethan stood between her and the hunters, his blaster aimed and steady. The Shadow Priest didn't move. He stood with his hands clasped, his glowing green eyes fixed on Ethan like he was studying a puzzle. The hunters spread out, forming a half-circle. You can't win, the priest said calmly. We have numbers. We have weapons. And you have a dying girl. Ethan's jaw clenched. He didn't take his eyes off them. Maybe, but I've brought down worse odds before. The hunters stepped forward. Ethan fired one quick shot that struck the wall beside them, sending a spray of sparks. They hesitated, but only for a second. Then the first lunged. Ethan ducked low, firing again. The shot hit the hunter in the chest, knocking him backward into the rubble. The second hunter rushed him, swinging a heavy staff. The blow caught Ethan's shoulder, sending pain shooting down his arm. He stumbled, but didn't drop the blaster behind him. Lyara sank to her knees. Her breathing was fast but shallow. Her skin pale, except for the strange silver light glowing faintly in the veins of her neck. Ethan, her voice was soft, weak. It's starting. The last stage. The priest's cold voice cut through the chaos. You have minutes before her thread burns away. Save her, or keep fighting. You can't do both. The hunters advanced again. Ethan blocked one strike with his arm, ignoring the pain, and fired point-blank into the attacker's side. The alien fell with a sharp cry. Only one hunter remained. Now, moving slowly, weapon ready. The priest stayed where he was, confident and still. Ethan risked a glance at Lyara. Her eyes were half closed. Her lips trembled as she whispered something he couldn't hear. What? He called, ducking another swing from the last hunter. Her voice was barely a breath. The vow, say the vow. The hunter struck again, forcing Ethan back. He barely had time to raise the blaster before a searing flash of pain shot through his leg. The hunter's weapon had grazed him, burning through the fabric. Ethan gritted his teeth, eyes darting between the hunter and Lyara. She was slipping away. He could see it in the way her head hung forward, her breathing slowing. The priest stepped closer, his voice almost a whisper. You cannot save her without the bond. And when you make it, you will be mine as well. Ethan's heart pounded. He knew the priest was lying about that last partour, at least twisting the truth, but there was no time to figure out his game. The hunter lunged. Ethan fired, the shot hitting the alien square in the chest. The hunter fell, armor clanging against the stone. Ethan turned immediately to Lyara, dropping to his knees beside her. Our skin felt cold now, the fever heat replaced by a dangerous chill. Tell me, he said quickly. The vow, what are the words? Her glowing eyes met his, weak but still holding that strange spark. Repeat after me. By thread and breath, I bind to you. Ethan took her trembling hands in his. By thread and breath, I bind to you. Her lips curved faintly. By life and death, I stand with you. By life and death, I stand with you. Her voice grew even softer. From this night, until the stars fade. Ethan felt the weight of the words, but he didn't hesitate. From this night, until the stars fade. She closed her eyes. Now, touch your forehead to mine. He did, and the moment their skin met, a blinding light burst from between them, silver and white, swirling like living fire. Ethan felt a rush of warmth flooding his chest, his heartbeat syncing with hers. The shadow priest stepped back, shielding his eyes from the light. When the glow faded, Lyra's breathing had steadied. Her color had returned and her eyes opened, brighter than before. It's done, she whispered. Ethan helped her stand. He felt different, stronger, faster, and strangely connected. He could sense her heartbeat, her emotions, even her fear. The priest's voice was low but sharp. You have sealed your fate, human. Now you are part of her, and of our war. Ethan tightened his grip on Lyara's hand. Then you'd better be ready for a fight. You won't win. The priest's green eyes narrowed. We will see. He turned and melted into the shadows, leaving the bodies of the fallen hunters behind. Ethan looked at Lyara. Can you walk? She nodded. Yes, but they won't stop now. The bond gives us protection, but it also puts a mark on us that everyone can sense. Ethan exhaled. Then we move, before more of them find us. They left the ruined tower, stepping back into the maze of streets. The city was still alive with neon lights and distant noise. But now it felt different, like every shadow could hide another enemy. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan felt a new bond pulsing like a second heartbeat, and knew that the fight was only beginning. The bonds powered the streets of the alien city were alive with light and movement, but Ethan felt every shadow watching him. Since the moment he had bonded with Lyara, the air felt different, thicker, sharper, almost humming. They moved quickly, weaving through the crowd. Lyra's steps were steadier now, her color back, but she held his hand tightly, as if letting go would break the bond. Do you feel it? She asked quietly. Ethan glanced at her. Feel what? K-link between us. It's more than life threads. You can sense me now, just as I can sense you. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? She smiled faintly. Close your eyes. Listen. He did, reluctantly. At first, he only heard the usual distant voices, the hum of hovercrafts, the rush of wind. Then something else came, like a soft pulse at the edge of his mind. Steady, warm. That's me. Lyara said. Ethan opened his eyes. That's weird. It will save us, she replied simply. If we're separated, you'll always know where I am. They turned into a narrow street, lit by flickering blue lamps. The smell of hot metal and alien spices filled the air. Ethan scanned the crowd automatically, his instincts prickling. Two figures in dark armor were watching them from the far end. Trouble, Ethan muttered. I see them, Lyara said, but there was no fear in her voice. Let me try something. Before he could stop her, she stepped forward, raising her hand. A faint silver glow spread from her palm, like mist curling in the air. The armored figures hesitated, their helmets tilting as if listening to something. Then, without a word, they turned and walked away. Ethan blinked. What was that? The bond, she explained. It strengthens my influence. I can send a pulse of intent through the link can't because you're human. It's different, more powerful. They felt a command to leave. Ethan let out a low whistle. I'm starting to like this bond thing. It works both ways, Lyara warned. When you're angry, I feel it. When you're hurt, I feel that too. And so will our enemies if they know how to listen. They moved on, avoiding open spaces. But as they reached the edge of the marketplace, Ethan suddenly stopped. A sharp, stabbing sensation shot through his chestnut pain, exactly, but a signal. Lyara looked at him sharply. What is it? He pointed toward a shadowed alley. Something's there. I can feel it. They approached cautiously. At first, the alley seemed empty, just stacks of crates and the faint smell of damp stone. But then a small movement caught Ethan's eye. A figure crouched in the shadows. Young alien boy, no older than 12, clutching a small, glowing device. His eyes widened when he saw them. Lyra's voice was soft. He's a watcher. They send children to track movement for the hunters. Ethan crouched down, meeting the boy's eyes. Hey, we don't want trouble. Just walk away. The boy hesitated, looking at Lyara with something like pity. Then he turned and ran. "They'll know we're here," Lyara said quietly. "Then we keep moving." They pushed deeper into the city's lower levels, where the lights were dimmer, and the air smelled of rust and old machinery. Here, the streets were narrower, lined with metal walls covered in strange graffiti. Ethan felt the bond again, a faint tightening, like a warning. "They're coming," he said. Lyara nodded. "Now from both sides. They're trying to trap us." Ethan scanned the street. To the left was a narrow staircase leading up to a balcony that overlooked the lower level. "Up," he said. They climbed quickly, their footsteps ringing on the metal steps. From the balcony, they could see the hunters below, their black armor gleaming under the pale lights. "They haven't seen us yet," Ethan whispered. "Then we take the roof," Lyara replied. She pointed to a low structure ahead. Its roof connected to others by thin metal bridges. They ran across the balcony and leaped onto the roof. The metal groaned under their weight, but it held. From up here, the city stretched endlessly, layers of platforms, towers, and glowing walkways disappearing into the mist. A sudden shout echoed behind them. The hunters had spotted them. Ethan grabbed Lyara's hand. "Go." They sprinted across the roof, jumping gaps between buildings. The bond pulsed faster now, matching their pounding hearts. Ethan realized he could feel not just her location, but her urgency, her focus. One bridge ahead was blocked by two hunters. Lyara didn't slow. She raised her hand again, sending out another silver pulse. But this time, the hunters didn't move. "They're shielded," she gasped. Ethan charged forward, using his momentum to slam into the first hunter. They tumbled onto the roof, weapons clattering. The second hunter swung at him, but Ethan ducked, grabbed the weapon, and drove an elbow into the alien's chest. Lyra's voice rang out behind him. Ethan left. He moved without thinking, turning just in time to avoid a strike from the first hunter who had gotten back up. He realized it wasn't just her voice, it was the bond, warning him before the attack came. Within moments, both hunters were down. Ethan and Lyara didn't wait. They crossed the bridge and disappeared into the shadows of the next building. When they finally stopped, Ethan was breathing hard. That was new. Lyra's eyes shone in the dim light. "The bond makes us stronger together, but it also paints a target on us. Every starborn hunter in the city will know you've taken me as your mate now." Ethan smirked, though his heart was still racing. "Then let's make them regret coming after us." Far above, the alien moon shone through the haze, its light catching the silver glow in Lyra's eyes. The bond between them pulsed steadily alive, unbreakable, and somewhere in the city, Ethan knew, the Shadow Priest was already preparing his next move. A new path of rooftops gave way to the city's outer edge, where the lights faded and the towers ended in sheer drops into mist. Ethan and Lyara stood on a wide metal platform, their breaths turning white in the cold night air below them. The endless dark stretched like an ocean of shadows. Far in the distance, the alien moon hung low, its silver glow bathing everything in an otherworldly light. "We can't stay here," Ethan said, scanning the horizon. "The hunters will follow the bond's trail. It's only a matter of time before they find us again." Lyara was silent for a moment. Her eyes were fixed on the mist below. "There's a place outside the city, the wildlands. If you dare to enter it, the terrain hides you from tracking devices, and—" She hesitated. "There are those who still remember my family. They might protect us, or they might hand us over for a reward." Ethan said flatly. "They could," she admitted. "But they might also be the only ones who can help us prepare for what's coming." Ethan thought of the Shadow Priest's words, the calm certainty in his voice. This wasn't over. It would never be over unless they did something more than just run. Before he could answer, the bond gave a sudden, sharp pulse like a warning. Jolt. "They've found us," Lyara whispered, out of the mist. Black shapes emerged, hovercrafts, silent and fast, gliding toward the platform. Their headlights cut through the fog, and Ethan could see the glint of hunter armor inside. "No time to argue," Ethan said. "We move now." They ran along the platform toward an old freight lift, its metal cage hanging over the drop. The controls were rusted, but Ethan yanked the lever, and the lift jerked to life with a screech. The hovercrafts closed in. Blue light from their weapons flickered in the fog. A shot rang out, slamming into the platform and showering them with sparks. "Faster," Lyara urged. The lift rattled downward into the mist. The air grew colder, wetter. The test sounds of the city faded above, replaced by the distant calls of unseen creatures. Halfway down, another hovercraft appeared below them, rising from the fog. Hunters stood on its deck, weapons ready. Ethan pulled his blaster. "Hold on." He fired at the lifts. Control cables on the side. The damaged metal snapped, and the lift dropped the last 20 feet with a crash, throwing them both to the floor. They scrambled out just as the hunters leaped from the hovercraft. Ethan and Lyara, and into the fog-choked wildlands. Here, the ground was uneven, covered in twisted alien trees with silver leaves that whispered in the wind. The air smelled of wet stone and something sweet but faintly dangerous. Behind them, the hunters spread out, their armor clanking softly as they advanced. Lyara grabbed Ethan's arm. "This way." They weaved between the trees until they came to a rocky slope. Lyara climbed quickly, despite the uneven terrain, and Ethan followed, his boots slipping on loose stones at the top. The land dropped away into a wide valley glowing faintly with bioluminescent plants. Strange creatures moved in the shadows, their eyes reflecting the moonlight. "This is it," Lyara said. "The wildlands." Ethan scanned the valley. "If your friends are here, they're well hidden." "They'll find us," she said, with certainty. The bond pulsed again, steady this time, not urgent. It felt different, almost as if the land itself was recognizing her presence. Suddenly, movement flickered in the tree line below. Figures stepped into view, tall, cloaked in dark green, their faces half hidden. They carried long spears and moved with a predator's grace. One stepped forward, pulling back his hood. His skin was the same pale silver as Lyra's, his eyes glowing faintly. "Starborn," he said in their language, bowing his head to Lyara. She returned the gesture. "I seek shelter." "And I bring my mate." The man's gaze shifted to Ethan. For a moment, the air felt tense. Then he nodded slowly. "You're welcome. But you must understand, if you carry the bond, you carry the war as well." Ethan smirked. "Yeah, I figured that out already." The cloaked figures led them into the valley, disappearing among the glowing plants. The air grew warmer, and the faint hum of the bond between Ethan and Lyara steadied, almost comforting. But Ethan knew this wasn't the end. That night, as they rested in a hidden camp beneath the glowing trees, Lyara sat beside him. The firelight made her silver hair shimmer. "You saved me," she said softly, "and now you've tied your life to mine." Ethan looked at her, feeling the bond pulse between them like a quiet promise. "Guess we'll have to make sure neither of us dies, then?" She smiled faintly. "Do you regret it?" He shook his head. "Not yet. But I'm sure the Shadow Priest will do his best to make me change my mind." Lyra's smile faded. "He won't stop. And now that we're bonded, the fate of my people is tied to you too." Ethan leaned back, staring up at the alien moon through the glowing branches. "Then we fight. Together." Somewhere far away, in the darkness beyond the wildlands, the Shadow Priest stood on the edge of the city, watching the mist. His voice was barely a whisper. Run while you can, Starborn. The hunt has only begun. The war hadn't started yet. But Ethan and Lyra's new path was clear. Every step forward would take them deeper into danger and closer to the heart of a battle that would decide the fate of worlds.